Hey everyone, this is me, the Undead Viking, and I want to talk to you about Final Frontier, the publishing company that is the people that came out with this game, Rise to Nobility, one of my favorite games of last year. I did a video of that, and I really enjoyed the game. I think Final Frontier games, the people behind there, are really doing a great job of kind of bringing back the medium-heavy Euro and making really excellent games with Cavern Tavern, Rise to Nobility, and they have Robin Hood and the Merry Men as well, which I believe is going to be released at Essen. So I'm excited to see how that game is going to look like after it went through crowdfunding. But right now, they are taking this fantastic game and they are adding this fantastic expansion, Rise to Nobility Beyond, and adding some fantastic new gameplay to an already fantastic game. And they sent this to me. I've now played it in accordance with this, and it is, as I said, fantastic. So let me show you what Beyond is going to add to your Rise to Nobility game, and then we'll come back here and I'll give you my final thoughts on Beyond and also just expansions in general. Alright, cool. I'm going to tell you all about the Beyond expansion for Rise to Nobility. I'm just going to be focusing on the expansion during this video. If you want to learn how to play Rise to Nobility and want to know more about that game, go ahead and check out my original video for that, and I'm going to go ahead and put the link to that in the description of this video, so you can go check that out. But anyway, so this is the new game board that you're going to get with Beyond. This will go directly to the right of the main game board, and it's just going to be added on as another place that you're going to be able to do certain actions. Each player is also going to get another player board, which is this board right here, and they're also going to put that to the right of their player board that they already have with Rise to Nobility, the base game, and this is just, once again, going to be a little addition that you're going to have with you. I did take some of the dice out of the base game. Those are just going to be the ones, just so I can kind of show you how those things work, but there are going to be, you're going to get some of these cool little red gemstones here, and mind you, this is a prototype, so between now and when the game, the expansion gets published, exactly how like those are going to be represented, or those resources are going to be represented, may be different between now and then. But those are called Rock Rose, and they're a major addition to the game. I also have more meeples and more buildings, like from the just like in the other game, and also we have these new discs. And those discs are going to be used for placing in the hidden, the Timeless Temple up here, as you start adding discs there to gain rewards and also gain a bunch of victory points at the end of the game if you manage to have a majority in the Timeless Temple. There also is this Guardian's Glade section here, another place where you're going to be able to put your dice, and you're going to be able to collect these cards. Now these cards are going to be handed out at the very beginning of the game. Each person's going to get 5 cards, and they're going to pick one, pass the rest to your left, pick one, pass one to the left, so on and so forth, until you have 3 cards. Now, I kind of cheated just a little bit and just picked 3 cards. I didn't go through the drafting process. And I did pick one of each type of card. There are dwellings, elders, and relics. And I'm going to talk about each of those here in just a brief moment or two. But before I dive into the extra spaces and what you're going to be doing over here, I did want to show you one other thing. So you are going to get a small deck of these new Settlers cards, and you're going to go ahead and fold these into the Settlers that are in the Rise to Nobility base game. The big difference between all these cards is their special abilities are actually going to be have to do with this Rock Rose resource. And so the Rock Rose, which I'm going to talk a little bit more about here, obviously how you get it, what it's used for, anything like that. These will be folded into the decks of Settlers, and you're going to have those appear during the game, and it'll give you an option to use the new resource. All right, so one thing that's cool about the Rock Rose is that it is used for those new settlers. It is used to activate the relics that you claim. It is also going to be used, I'm going to just kind of scoot this out a little bit. It also can be used, as you can see, to trade in for lots of different like things you can get, even reputation and money and so on and so forth. So you can, Rock Rose is always going to be available to you to trade in and out, and it's kind of like a wild card type of resource that the game doesn't normally have. Now, one of the main ways that you're going to get Rock Rose. Now, there's like sometimes like you'll have if you activate dwellings, you'll notice that they give you income, where they are going to actually give you a Rock Rose if you are able to activate them. I'll talk about activating those cards here in just a little bit. But the main way you do it is after you roll your dice, you're going to use your dice for certain actions, and you're going to be using those. But as you remember, you are limited as far as the number of dice you use or the value of the dice you have by the reputation that you have. So if you have a situation, I actually rolled pretty well here. I got 6, 4, 4, and 2 5s. So if I had a reputation of 10, and I was only able to use maybe like this 6 and the 4, I would have a lot of dice left over. I would have 14 dice left over. And then I would be able to divide that number by 3, rounded down, and that would give me Rock Rose. So so in this case, if I had 14, I almost have 15. I mean, I could have gotten 5, but in this case, I get 4, rounded down. This is a way that you're going to get a lot of your Rock Rose, and it also offers up some interesting decisions that you're going to possibly make as far as with the leftover dice that you have. Something that I really liked that this expansion added. I'll talk more about that in my final thoughts. But that is the main way you're going to be collecting this new resource. Alright, so these cards that you have Dwellings, Elders, and Relics. Now, like Dwellings, I just grabbed some random ones. Like here we have like bonus points here, like and Dwellings. Well, once they've activated, they're good for the rest of the game. How do you activate them? You have to place one of your houses. I'm yelling. Onto that to show that it's been activated, and it stays there for the rest of the game. But once it's been done, it's done, and you get whatever bonus it gives you, no matter what it is, and you're going to get it for the rest of the game. The same thing goes for Elders. So here's one that says gain a Rock Rose each time you visit the Guardian's Glade. So and this you have to put one of your workers, one of your meeples on there, and the income is going to be 2 coins each time. So if you do that, once it's activated, it's good to go, and you're going to be able to run with it, and it can happen. Now, you can have multiple dwellings, multiple elders, multiple relics, but you can't have 2 of the same card. So just keep that in mind for when you claim cards out of the Guardian's Glade. Now, the final thing is the relics. Relics get activated by spending. First of all, one, you have to place a die, and it can be any number. You got to place a die on your board to say that you're going to use your relics, and then you have to pay Rock Rose to do it. And then here's what it says: turn any of your unplaced die to any number, and it's just a special power that this relic has. So, but you can, once you put that down, it doesn't matter if you had like 5 Relics cards and you have the Rock Rose to pay for each of them, you'd have the ability to activate all of them just with 1 die, placing it on there. Alright, so how do you get more cards out of the Guardian's Glade? There are 3 different spots for dice, and any number of dice can be placed there. They don't get used up by players if they go there. The first place is for 1 or 2, then a 3 or 4, and a 5 or a 6. With a 1 or 2, you can take any of these cards, but you have to pay a coin to do so. If you use a dice that has 3 or 4 on it, you can just take 1 card for free. If you use a die with a 5 or 6 on it, you can take 2 cards. And you can just claim those and go ahead and put them in your tableau. There's no limit to the number of cards you here, except for the fact, as I said, you can't have 2 of the same card. And as you take these cards out, obviously you will replenish them with this giant deck of these. And those are all going to be these 3 types: Dwellings, Elders, and Relics. Alright, the final bit is the Timeless Temple. So this is another place where you can place dice. Now, the trick with Timeless Temple is that you have to place the dice starting here and moving over to the right. And whatever the first die is that gets placed into this location, whatever number it is, each successive spot has to use the exact same die. So if I started off with a 4, the next spot would have to be a 4, and the next spot would have to be a 4, and the next spot would have to be a 4, and so on and so forth. So the person who puts the die first really is like kind of the decision maker as far as those are concerned. So when you place a die in that spot, you can give one offering. And the offerings are located in these 6 tiers. And each tier has a cost associated with it in order to actually be used. Now, I do apologize. I am going to actually zoom in just so you can have a closer look at those tiers so you can kind of see those closer, because you kind of can't probably see them really carefully. And I normally don't zoom in on things like this, so I do apologize for this. But as you can see here, like some of these tiers, like the rewards, like for this bottom rung, it's 3 coins, you lose 2 reputation, but you're going to gain 3 rock rose. You need all the way up to the top where you have to spend 3 of any of the goods that any of the guilds create, 4 coins, and 5 total reputation, but you're going to get 8 points for doing so. And when you take a spot, you just go ahead and place one of your tokens on there. And as you can see, there are only a certain number of spaces available for each spot. So once those are filled, they are filled, and they cannot be like, you can't stack discs on top of one another. At the end of the game, the player with the most offerings in the Timeless Temple will gain victory points that are equal to the total number of offerings in the temple, including other players. And then the second player with the second most gets half of what the first player got, and the third most gets a half again of what the second player got. And both of those would be rounded down. And it's just a way for you to get automatic rewards by going up into that spot, but also a great way to pick up a bunch of points if you can manage to be the first person in the lead, and that's as far as the majority on that Timeless Temple. And that's what this adds. This is the perfect type of expansion for it. Well, because of the fact that even though it's adding like another board and another option and more things going on, it doesn't change the basic rules of the game. It adds a new resource, it adds new spots, and adds some cool new cards that are going to just kind of liven up the game, liven up the action, and give players another option to try to come out on top at the end. But let me talk about all of that and more in my final thoughts. Alright, so there we go. That is Rise to Nobility Beyond. Now, I mentioned I was going to talk about expansions in general, and I am going to do that real quickly. I kind of mentioned during the explanation of what Rise to Nobility Beyond does, I used to be a huge expansion guy. Like, I mean, if something came out for a game that I liked, I snatched it up almost immediately. There was, like, no hesitation. I was like, yeah, sure, grab that. And for the most part, I think the expansions do a really, really, really good job. I think in a lot of ways they can breathe new life into a game that maybe is ground stale. And also, can open the doors to like maybe a more evolved game that a designer had, as far as their plan was. But maybe like a lot of times when a game gets developed, like certain things get cut to like kind of shorten the game down or condense the game in some way to make it more palatable to the public when they're purchasing it. And then later on, once the game is successful, they're able to go, I had this really, really cool idea that I couldn't really develop fully and add to the game. Now I've had the chance to kind of, grow that idea, and now I can put it back in with this expansion. But I have had expansions that have come out, and it seems like the addition is fairly superfluous and serves no real purpose. And or my most dreaded type of expansion is the one where it's like, hey, you remember that game that you play a lot of that you just love? Yeah. All right. Well, forget all those rules that you spent all that time learning, and we're just going to throw them out the window, and we're going to give you an entirely new way to play this game. And I don't like that at all. So, thankfully, this is one of those expansions that kind of like, not only does it kind of open new pathways and new ways to play the game, but it also is one of those that, like, I don't think I'll ever play Rise to Nobility without adding this expansion in with it. It just adds too much to the game. The lone thing of, like, actually having leftover dice, like being able to, giving them those leftover dice, the added ability of giving you the rock rose. I mean, just so, like, it gives you the little boost. I mean, I always felt bad when I had leftover dice. Like, it's like, oh, I just couldn't really do enough, But now it's like, oh, well, here, cool, I got these resources. I mean, so that was like a huge thing that I was just like, oh, that's kind of cool. And also now I'm going to make, kind of factor that into my decision making when it comes to which dice I use and things like that. I really like that. And just having more options of different places where I can go, and like kind of develop different strategies as far as how I'm going to try to come out on top once the game is over. Just that's always really welcome. I kind of, in a weird way, when I kind of added the board, and a couple other guys in my game group said this, we mentioned it, and this might be kind of, a bad word to say because of the fact that it's like theoretically impossible to find, but it was like the Pillars of the Earth expansion, which was like, that's one of my, like, favorite kind of lighter games. This is not a light game, by the way. That's one of my favorite lighter worker placement type games, but I would never play that game without the expansion that's with it. It isn't really a good comparison, so to speak, because it has, they're not even close to being alike in any way. But it was just one of those things where it kind of felt like that. Maybe it was just the added board, and it felt like the board should have been there in the first place. It just kind of flowed really well and added itself onto the game. And the fact that I never really felt like the game was gummed up in any way, if that makes sense. The whole process of the game and the addition of Nobility just flowed really well. It was like it should have been there. Like I said, it should have been there the entire time. And maybe it was something that was the designers had in the game, and they just weren't able to put into the first like box that they published. But who cares? It doesn't matter. Now I can get it, and I can add it on, and I can just make an already really, really awesome game even more awesome. So there you go. If you are a fan of Rise to Nobility and you own it, I think this is a must-buy expansion. You will not be disappointed in it. If you don't own Rise to Nobility, check out my old review. Like I said, the Final Frontier people, they are like bringing back this. I mean, there's a lot of Euro games out there, and I can usually have a real good time playing any of them. But, like, Final Frontier has consistently just come out with gems. Games that challenge me, challenge my gaming group, and challenge the way that we, like, normally have our structures in our head, how we play games. Like, how, like, I've played worker placement games before. I know how this works. I know how this works. I know how this works. Their games challenge that and, like, kind of make me break down how I've normally been solving these types of games, how I have normally been thinking about these types of games, and I've had to rethink that whole process of how I approach these more dense strategy games. And I like that. I like the fact that 10 years or 11 or whatever, 12 years of designer board games, I'm getting something fresh and new, and it's like when I first started gaming again when I play stuff like this, which I love. So there you go. This is a must-have expansion to this. If you have any questions about either of these things, go ahead and ask away. I'll be happy to answer those as best as I can. As always, you out there, yes, you, be the best version of you that you possibly can be. Surround yourself with positivity. Kick the toxicity out of your life. And, just enjoy each and every day, because, you know what? One day the trip will be over, and you want to be able to look back at your life and say, it was awesome. So make each day awesome, and you be awesome. All right. Until next time, I am the Undead Viking, and I'll be here, and I'll have another one of these, and hopefully we'll talk soon.